Minecraft shaders are really neat. They're one incredible and versatile way of completely changing the way you play the game without modifying anything other than the visuals. The best part is that it's a completely separate thing from texture packs and mods. The only thing that truly limits them is the performance of the computer running them and the settings being complete shit. I'm making this video since it's a good excuse to talk about the many shader packs that I have installed, mainly to talk shit. Like, I'll keep getting videos in my recommended, and whenever they have shaders on, they're running really shit shaders or really shit settings. I'll be pretty loose going over all the shaders because there's just so many, and the goal isn't to be like a highly edited guide or anything. This is just me talking out of my ass, trying to get out thoughts that I've been having for a long time. Before we start, I should state that my rig is not the best, but it will help me show you that there are like a couple changes here and there in general that you make with most shader packs in order to improve performance. Quite a few shader packs have presets, thankfully, so you could just like click a preset and see if that runs better. The most important thing when running shaders is making sure the frame rate is smooth, and ending up with a good gameplay experience rather than an insane aesthetic. I should also state that I'm running a modified version of Stay True. I got rid of the netherite armor. I have vanilla tweaks throw in the pre 1.14 ores that aren't made into dumbass noise filters by a dumbass artist, and I've replaced the blurry ass mangrove and cherry logs. Stay True honestly does a better job at Jappa's butchering of the art style. For the mangrove and cherry logs specifically, I modified the ones from Ace's programmer art preserved, and while stylistically different from the rest of the pack, it's actually pleasant to look at and not blurry as shit. I'll link Ace's Planet Minecraft page so you can find all that cool shit he's made. If we're talking shaders, we're talking either Optifine or Iris. Optifine is fuller featured with connected texture, zoom, and shader support right out of the box. With Iris, it uses the sodium mod for optimization. As a result, you need to have a mod for connected textures if you want that, and a zoom mod if you also want that, with Iris being the mod you get for shader support. Both Optifine and Iris are good, but in general, Iris is a significantly better performer, though you will be missing out on certain features of certain shaders, as there are shaders that prefer the feature set and functionality of Optifine. There's only really one shader that I'll show that really wants Optifine, and that isn't enough for me to justify making an entirely new instance just to showcase it. I love Bliss, and it's certainly a shader that I'm keeping up with, and we'll talk about it later, but I just don't have that in me. My way of testing the shaders is going to be really light. In my opinion, you're always going to have a better test if you play with the shader yourself and get a feel for it in various gameplay situations. There are some parameters though you should look out for, like whether or not you like the daytime of a shader. And more importantly, there are people like TecThor, who I'll link in the description quite frequently, who have made guides of various shaders in this video, who does a better job of explaining what to change. As you can see, I have a dedicated world here to test various aspects of the shaders, and in terms of materials, emissives, and PBR, which is also materials, and we have daytime settings and weather and various areas to teleport to. I won't go over every aspect here because that would take way too much time. I'm gonna edit in just the highlights and the lowlights of a shader, and we'll see like aspects shown around, stuff that you can test yourself. If you're not satisfied with how I test them, you can always test them yourself, and I would recommend that, as your rig could be different from mine. You may have a different set of texture packs. You could have a different opinion on how a shader should look, and that's completely fine, except if you like Astralex, the first shader pack, BSL. This is like a very good baseline for every other shader, if you ask me. It doesn't do anything great, it just does everything okay. performance-wise, there's a lot to be desired. The rain is okay in BSL, but the performance is not. The water is serviceable. Ooh, I felt motion blur for a moment. There's no way there's motion blur on this. But yeah, you saw it dip to 30 when I walked into that water. Another thing that I see quite a few shaders struggle with is snow, surprisingly. I don't think a lot of shaders really do snow that well, especially at night. The shader does an alright job. There's nothing wrong about BSL shader. There's nothing inherently bad about it. It just doesn't, it's not great. It's a completely basic shader to me. Like, we'll look at the sun, the day, the noon, sunset, night. Pretty decent volumetric clouds if you were to ask me. Midnight, and then sunrise again. Biggest strength of BSL, if you're running the just regular old BSL, is of course the settings menu. It has a really good settings menu, which is surprising. You can do a lot with this shader, and TecThor has a 10-minute guide, which I'll of course link. The way this shader can transform into something that looks okay to genuinely a pretty good contender with other shaders is very interesting. The nether, of course, is fairly visible, nothing really spectacular. We're just gonna go to the War Forest, which honestly isn't that great. This is very muted. Crimson Forest is not that crimson, but it's still pretty crimson. Visibility is somehow worse, and BSL's end is pretty uninspired, I'd say. It just looks like a knockoff of Chocapic, which it's good to have something you're going for. Like, Chocapic's end is a really good end. This is just not that interesting to me. Also, real quick, before we begin, I should show you, if you turn on multicolored block light, you will encounter some issues. So the lighting is different, and then you crouch and like it flickers and stuff. Yeah, no, this. So be careful with some settings. This shader being so good across the board, like average compared to the greats, and there's a reason there's so many edits of VSLs, because and we'll see that right now with my next recommendation. If you're not going to run VSL, you're absolutely going to have to run complementary. We have both reimagined and unbound, and I realize I have way too many versions. I have quite a lot to say about the shader, but I can't say it now. This is the shader that I would recommend to everyone in modern versions. There's just nothing this shader does wrong. I have a lot to say about this shader, a lot to complain about, but that's not to say that the shader is bad. So, which is why we're going to go over now. Good, like, midday kind of deal, you know, before the noon. You have the glass zone. I have teleport pads. I don't know why I'm flying around. The water is very playable. You can very much operate this. There's a few settings I would change out of the box. The neat thing about Reimagined is that it's a very streamlined settings menu, but it's kind of lacking. You can adjust every performance-related setting here, and that is very convenient. But this is the Reimagined style. This is meant to be a very Minecrafty looking shader. That's a weird thing to say, but to better explain it, we're going to go to the mountains. This shader has cold biome auroras, and as you can see in the reimagined visual style, this is what they look like. Even on the high preset, the shader runs pretty well. I like the moon, I like the auroras. I actually like the volumetric clouds. Missive ores are on by default, I would turn those off. And wait, one more important thing. The most important thing about a shader is nighttime water. Well, it's not the most important, but like, water visibility at nighttime is important for gameplay. And it's something where you need to be pretty thorough in checking this. Weaker aspects include the sunrise, but it's an okay sunrise. The sunset's alright. Here we have a pretty massive difference. We're in the same situation with complementary VSL with this rainy birch forest. And we actually have really good frames. We're actually hitting the frame cap, which is set to 90, because as much as I'd like to see it unlimited, I don't think it's necessary to go past like the refresh rate of my monitor, which is like 75. We didn't go below 40, and that's the main thing. The cloud coverage could be a lot better. The nether is done exceptionally well. The visual clarity of BSL has been improved, and the visual flare that has been added on to compensate is really good. This nether smoke, this nether fog, pretty sure it's called fog, is really nice. You'll see more of it in the Soul Sand Valley, which really good soul fire. Very visible. Go to the nether waste, and this is important. The bloom, which is very noticeable, is actually very subtle. This is where you're going to notice really bad bloom. The nether is where you really see the worst out of your bloom. And this is just insane looking. This orange, deep orange fog is genuinely incredibly pleasing. The Crimson Forest has a good amount of clarity, and it's still very crimson because they have the emissive stems that are actually glowy and the misty vines. Definitely a strong biome is the Warped Forest with that fog, the emissives on the stems, very purple, very warped. We'll talk more when we compare this to other shaders. Many shaders will have different water when it rains. Pretty sure it's different here. I have a lot more to say about complementary since I've been using it for years, but we have another shader pack to test. And that, of course, is filters. Filters is shit. There's no way to get around that. We're gonna go with 1.5 high, because I need to explain a few things about the shader. For one, very bright, very vibrant. This water to me isn't good. This is a river and I consider this unplayable. Like, imagine this at nighttime. Speaking of, we're not even gonna bother with the ocean. We're gonna tackle the sky first. And, well, the lighting, the bloom, genuinely insane. And the settings menu to modify this seems in depth, but, like, there's more to be desired. Like, the fact that it's not a slider, and the fact that it was already low because I set it to low is insane. There is a way to change that spotlight moon and reduce it. I forgot. I'll probably put in a guide even though I don't like this shader. The sky looks good. But, again, water, genuinely unplayable. The run through the birch forest, extremely performance heavy, and the rain just does not look that good. This is like on mostly default settings. You can make the shader look good, but by default, the shader looks bad. And that's what I really hate. I don't want to fix a shader, I want to tune a shader. I want to adjust a shader, not fix it. I shouldn't have to have fixed it from the start. I should have to simply make some small adjustments here and there. Instead, I find it pretty unacceptable that I have to, like, find all of this in a guide. And you can't tell me that that's not great. It's so much bloom, dude. Bloom is a good thing, but it's overdone, and it's overly warm too. The end is incredibly boring, incredibly simple. Like, considering everything else in this shader, this is kind of a punch to the gut. The way you fix this, if you want it fixed from the start, is that we're going to set it to extreme volumetric lighting, which is even more performance intensive. And whoop-de-doo, that fixed it. A shader that looks bad from the start ain't something I want to fix. The only redeeming thing about cylinders is that motion blur isn't on by default, whereas it is on in Kappa, Nostalgia, and Astrolax. Kappa from the start is bad. It's just not in a style that I really like, and even in its style, I don't like how it does it. It's incredibly performance intensive, and if we set it to default, I did say motion blur was enabled, and it is. There are two main things. One, that motion blur. Two, visually it looks but most importantly, the nether and the end. For one, the nether actually works, which is something you have to look out for occasionally. Sometimes the shaders will break in the nether. But this fog effect is annoying. It has good soul fire, but nether waste. Like, it's just annoying. Like, if we go to the soul or forest, like, I don't like it, no. But the end also, so like 56, 60, and I'm in a desert. Now I'm next to water, and oh god, this is horrible water to play in. Oh, that exposure is not good. But the end is also just way too extra. Like, I don't like this as a sun. Damn. That's rare in this economy. Nostalgia isn't much better. It tries for a different aesthetic, but even then I'm not too big on it. It has motion blur on by default. Pretty okay sulfire representation. Pretty meh water. Like, it's very blue. That is some bloom. That is some insane bloom. Even though it's somewhat more tasteful than Kappa, it's still not that great. Like, it's not Dr. Destin's, which is really boring. Oh god, it's like very foggy in the Crimson Forest. I don't like that. This is like a biome where I want visibility. There's only one shader that I'll forgive. Like, there's only two shaders that I'll forgive for sacrificing visibility in the nether. And I guess here it's trying to go for like that more vanilla style of look. Trying to go for that harshness, but like it's just not doing it. I know I'm now breezing through everything, not going through the settings, but like this is my sixth take. I know what I want to talk about with each shader. I don't need to comment on everything anymore. Here we can talk about Astrolax, another edit of BSL. And the fact that this is an edit of BSL is somewhat surprising, because how did we end up with complementary in Astrolax? That's what I want to know. Astrolax advertises itself as the most customizable shader, and while it's correct, I will say it is also the most bloated shader I've ever seen. It does way too much. It has motion blur on by default. It has this funny shift thing. If you set it to nighttime, you're also going to see some disgusting shit. We have auroras because there's no biome check apparently. These constellations everywhere, and they flicker in the sky. You set it to midnight. You see this for some reason. I think that's the moon. No, that's the moon. Why are there galaxies? They're shooting stars. What is this? The water is good and okay, but it's otherwise fine. I'm pretty sure the end is boring. No, the nether is boring as hell. We're just gonna look at the salt delta. It runs like shit. Boring as hell. Okay, those lava patches are genuinely neat, I will say. That is one great feature of Astrolax. I say that because there's another shader that does them, and they actually fuck it up. I fucking hate that scar so damn much. You go to the end, and it's also doing way too much. Like, what the fuck is that? What the fuck is this? Ah, God. It's so weird. Like, if these auroras were out in, like, the not main island, that might have been fine. But no, we have everything here. There might be more on the end islands, but I don't want to go. The simplest way to start fixing Astral X, from my experience, is medium. Very simple fix. I wonder what setting it to high will do. Ah, damn, that's infinite. Yeah, no, the difference between high and medium is so fucking massive. We have all this unnecessary, like, settings, like, come on, dude. A very daunting settings menu. Very expansive, I'll give it that, but Jesus Christ. I can't, man. It's just, there's too much. It looks bad in amount of items. I mean, you see my point. I don't like this shader. This is super duper vanilla. And there's the one consistent thing that super duper vanilla does. Everything is too much. This should not be green. Oh, there's the anvils coming in clutch. Done way too much though. So fire representation is good. You can see the material reflections being absurd. Like, it's reflecting the wood. It's reflecting the acacia. It's reflecting the wood. Like, what do you mean, dude? And to properly illustrate that, we're gonna set it to midnight. And yeah, that's a spotlight moon if I've ever seen one. And oh my god, I am so glad I set up this floor. It does not know how to handle the netherrack, which I'm kinda happy about. And I'm not gonna turn on default netherrack for that. You're gonna set it to noon, and then we're gonna remove the water. Also a color shift, even on noon. This water is just not the greatest looking. This rain is just way too much, like... What is this, man? We have Ace's autumn leaves on the birch trees, which looks really good. This runs well, but it doesn't look good. It's almost there. It's done way too much. To cement it all off, it does have the colored lighting. We don't need to check that. I've already done that. We have this nether and these lava patches, which are way too much. They're a bit too dark for me. They just don't look right when they're that dark. But also, there's way too much of it. Astral X actually did a better job here. And that's surprising, because Astral X is shit. I'll never get over how effective the obsidian is. That book was just really funny, as well as the Dark Clothes. Orc Forest, boring as hell. Crimson Forest. And considering that netherrack doesn't have any material, like, reflections on it, it's pretty muted. Nether is actually pretty muted all in all. The lava's too much, and everything else is just about the nether. But final nail in the coffin. I mean, everything else is a nail in the coffin already, but this end is pretty much so much going on. The worst part is that lens flare is very realistic, because black holes are extremely bright. I don't like thinking about black holes. They make me scary, but also, can we just acknowledge? Oh my god, dude. But, like, I don't need to say anything more. Lux is a shader that I've been keeping up with, but the end is bad. It doesn't look like it belongs in Minecraft. Lux has thoroughly neutered the end. Like, this is just like a way too high definition, way too much. Like, not Minecraft. Maybe if you were recording an ARG, this would be fine. Also, speaking of things that don't look like they belong, I should
I know I said I wasn't gonna go over this, but I have to. It's so funny. Destin's a pretty light shader, but oh my god. It's the fucking SpongeBob movie. I can't stop laughing. If this was a different color, it'd actually look good. I'm not gonna bother with Zeus or Voyager because both of those shaders are way too performance intensive by default, and the visuals they offer are just not something I like. These are shaders I don't want to talk about. These are not it for me. The same can be said about CUDA and Project Luma, as all of these projects are basically discontinued and are dead. The original CUDA is the best one out of the three, so if you're moving to 1.12.2, I would recommend this one. But honestly, I can just now talk about the shader scene. It's honestly incredibly dry right now. The only shader that really is worth keeping up with is Unbound, or Complementary Unbound and Reimagined. But the original Complementary, which is Complementary V, has stopped getting support and is ended at 4.7.2, which is a really damn shame because OG Complementary was a shader that really brought me back into shaders after 1.18 dropped and my performance was so bad that I kind of just had to drop them. They're most shaders right now are either really shit looking or they're early in development with technical issues, like for instance Lux, Soulless, or Bliss, and they're edits of already existing shaders. Well, I don't know what Lux is based off of, but Soulless is a edit of Complementary, and Bliss is an edit of Chocapic 13, and Chocapic 13 is another shader that has basically been discontinued for unknown reasons, as Chocapic 13 was last updated in February of 2021, which was 9 months before 1.18 launched. I don't remember the specific day, but version 4.7.2 came out quite a while ago, and it's the last version of Complementary, the original one. And so far, only two shaders really hold the torch of Chocapic and Complementary, and those would be Soulless and Bliss. We're of course going to talk about Soulless first, as it's an edit of Complementary, and it's actually remarkably interesting. Those planar clouds are actually very bad. Look, what's the time set? Zero, yeah, okay. So, first thing of note, it's set to 0. We're going to turn those planar clouds off. Now that looks better. Has an insanely strong PBR. I'm going to leave that there because it's really funny to show people this. Adds really good soul lighting. Emissive auras are on by default. Waving speed always set that to half. Pretty good general rule. Don't turn on fireflies. Me and Ace looked at that and it was not good. Oh yeah. In earlier versions of Soulless, the emissive flowers would exclude the torch flower, which was really, really funny. And that's part of generated emissives. And I'm gonna have to keep that on because you can't tell me that this doesn't look cool as shit. As a very tasteful, subtle galaxy. And is that auroras? Oh right, it's a full moon. So Spirix, Sky Config, Aurora, full moon visibility off. Very, very emissive Crying Obsidian. Very emissive Enchantment Table. Very strong emissives as well. So yeah, it looks weird. Oh, it's just reflection. But we're gonna set it to midnight. Pretty okay moon. You can set the clouds to blocky, but there's no way to get the vanilla sky and the vanilla moon and sun, so it actually doesn't work. The water is extremely playable. This is workable. The rain cloud coverage ain't there yet. Pretty sure you could probably adjust that in the settings. Also, the cloud height is way too low. I was wondering why that looked off. Amount, I'm gonna change. God, it still doesn't look high enough for me. There we go. But rain, not that strong. It's an additive complementary with added BSL. It looks better. Like, I actually, not too bad. Not have the biome check for the puddles? Apparently not. Okay. Serviceable rain, serviceable performance. Souls is very early in development. There's a lot of potential in it, and I'm legitimately looking at it as a good replacement for complementary going forward with newer versions. Really good lava bloom. Really good nether. We have something interesting going on if we go to the, not the nether ways, but we went there just to show you. To the Crimson Forest, we have, you know, the classic moving stem, but the emissive warped fungus block. It's very subtle with the Crimson one, but it makes it look pretty nice, but you really notice it, and it's really cool here. This is insane. This is insane looking. This is so cool, if you were to ask me. Like, this is one of the coolest warped forests that I've ever seen. Like, it's such a neat and refreshing take on it. It's actually done exceptionally well. Oh, right. If I remember right, oh right, Postfix Bloom. You can't set this anywhere below 1, which is, damn. The settings menu leaves a lot to be desired. The main piece of spectacle that keeps Solus really contending is the end. This is such a better end, and now we can really compare it to Reimagined. Now, Solus has had many different ends before. The black hole didn't used to be that big, it used to be smaller, and it used to look better in that version. It was 1.6.V, if I remember right. And this, to me, looks better in a lot of ways. But 2.6.1 is a better version, if you would ask me. We don't talk about 1.8.1 because he messed up here, and you can... I'll show you. Yeah, these clouds are bad, and they disappeared with the next version. This is Bliss. This is Bliss Shader. This is the only shader in the list that I know outright prefers Optifine for its full feature set and compatibility. It is an edit of Chocapic 13, and technically speaking, it's a very much better shader than Chocapic 13. Water could be better, honestly. And I can adjust this. The most intriguing thing about this shader is, well, after we look at the Midnight, really good, real tasteful Midnight. Has good soul lantern representation, soul lighting. More importantly, this shader has a better settings menu. And it has climate and like daily weather and seasons and stuff, which very much want Optifine. Biome specific weather, of course, being that if you set it to rain, we're in a desert, so what will happen instead is that we'll get sandstorms. Go out to the beach. Go out to the ocean, and it's cloudier to the rain. It has rain puddles as well, which is insane for a Chocapic shader. I wonder if it has colored lighting. Oh yeah, don't set it to midnight. Don't be... I am scared. I am horrified. To the glass zone. Nope. Doesn't have that colored lighting. At least, I think of the setting, probably. Oh, what? You can composite? Damn! Sorry, I felt like adjusting bliss, like Chocapic. I had a flashback, and I had to. And there should be water settings. World, water, hell yeah, water fog. What? Okay, this is a bit different. I don't know about this one. Dirt amount, of course, you change that to 0.8. You'll thank me later. Oh yeah, that's so much better. Maybe 0.12 if you want it. Is motion? No, it's not. It doesn't exist here. Go to the nether, and given that this is based on Chocapic 13, its visibility is pretty shit. Hey, but here's the thing, I don't hate this. And more importantly, I feel like things are definitely broken because we're on Iris and not Optifine. I feel like there's something wrong here. A neat little thing about Chocapic shaders. Fog be gone. I showed Ace this and he didn't know about this. God, it's such a weird thing. Yes, this works in rain. Don't even get me started, dude. I should set... Crimson Forest. Very crimson. Because based on Chocapic 13, we'll show you it. Warped Forest. Pretty warped. This is the only shader that really likes Optifine, and once again, I can't... This is just one shader. I don't feel inclined to do an Optifine instance. I need my performance. But I will show you the most spectacular set piece that Bliss has. This is somewhat broken. What a vortex, dude. And then if you go out to the end islands, and I know this for certain, you end up with lightning. It's genuinely... The fact that this is somewhat functional here is actually insane. But if you're running Optifine, this is my pick for you. This is just so cool. Hold on. Okay, I gotta appease my own curiosity. It works! God damn! You get still touch and you operate the shader. You're set for life. Visibility don't mean shit. Complimentary was once very well known for having a very well done end. Nowadays, not so much. It's pretty eh. This may look insane to anyone who has never seen it before. But if I were to tell you that this is like the least spectacular complimentary end, people would probably call me a liar if they hadn't seen OG complimentary. But now we can begin talking about OG complimentary. We're gonna go with a version 4.7.1 because I can set that to default. And at 4.7.2 is what I'm gonna use. I don't want to change it. I don't want to redo the amount of changes I did to it. So, welcome to complimentary V4. This is far more spectacular. This is, honest to God, the end that I wanted. This is the end that I want to play in when it comes to complimentary. This is like a good scent. The reason why you want an end to look good is because for me at least, the end is like where I end the run. I kill the Ender Dragon and then skedaddle to the next world because I like the finality of it. I'll never go out of my way to get an Elytra. I just want to say, look, I beat the Ender Dragon. I now want to move on to the next world and see if I can build something better. And this is a pretty good way of ending it off. With OG complimentary, we have a vastly superior settings menu. Overall sky color is actually very nice. Cloud settings, night sky, aurora borealis at this time of day. The Ender Nebula can be even made. I could probably make it a little bit brighter. The lighting, the overall light colors. Look at this! And to illustrate how powerful that is, and how important that is, we're gonna set it to a sunrise. No, we're gonna set it to a sunrise first. Also, the cloud cover is better here. Rain is actually somewhat good. Well, not as good as Chocapic, but good enough. And that's a pretty decent sunrise. Pretty yellow, pretty neat. So, it could use a little bit of adjustment. Yeah, there we go. There it is, dude. There it is. That's a different sunset altogether, dude. I could make it green. I won't, but I could. And it's so much easier. Like, sure, like, I don't have that streamlined menu, but goddamn, I don't need it. Everything here is concise, dude. Sunlight, evening. Blue, 44. Green, 104? We're gonna figure this out. Once again, TecThor has a 22-minute guide to this shader. 22 minutes. Wanna know why? Because this shader has so much you can change to make it look so much better than what it already looks like. And I'm gonna be watching that guide again, because I want to change the water a little bit. Water's great, but you can make it a little better. We lost so much customization when we moved to Reimagined. I mean, enough, well, not too much, but enough to where it's an actual downside to me. It's really sad. Which is why I'm going to keep all the versions I have of complimentary downloaded, like the original one, because I actually like these versions. And I get to see the evolution. I see where we started, and it's really, really, like, enchanting. Now we can talk about the final shader. Final shader that I wanted to talk about. Final shader that I wanted to scream about. It is, of course, complimentary V9. We're going to do Ultra. This is the version I set to default. By default, there's a lot of things you need to change about the shader to make it so much more playable. But, honest to God, this to me is nostalgic. I can work with this. This is not made for 1.20.2. It's not even made for 1.18. But it's working if we set it to midnight. For one, we have a lot of fog. But two, the lighting is a bit off because it's warm as hell and pretty gloomy. It gets even worse if you make it rain. So how do you fix this? Well, one, we have to go over it first. There's a few things, because I'd rather not show you an edited version of this pack and then talk about it. Let's talk about why it's worth the time and effort in the first place. Very nice. It runs extremely well. We're hitting our frame cap at 90 extremely fast. We're gonna teleport to the Birch Forest. Load in some chunks. 70, loading, it's loading. Yeah. And it's running. And the rain looks so nice. I have shown this shader multiple times to people, and they really like it. They really like how this looks. It is an incredibly pleasing shader to look at. And it runs incredibly well. With this subtlety, it adds so much to the intense fog and atmosphere the shader has. And it's taken up a notch when you go to the nether, and the visibility is so much worse here. But again, I don't mind it. I love this shader, even though I know this is bad. I can't get over the fucking glass trick, dude. Why you have to go. I don't know if I'm pretty sure it did this in Aquafine as well, but I'm not sure. Extremely crimson. Ace has suffered here in a Crimson Forest with Chocapicon in the No Pickaxe Challenge. This is the biome where you need visibility the most, and here I am enjoying this. But that's all child's play in the Nether. This is the coolest one. Okay, maybe not the coolest. This is my favorite one. This is just it. This is just it to me. It's so purple. It's so cool. It's so blue. The lighting is incredibly good by default, actually, surprisingly. We're gonna set, but if you modify it, and I will link the guide, I will link the guide to follow. Well, firstly, don't get Extreme Beta 1. We're gonna go into settings here and show you why. You cannot adjust the blue on the torch mount, and that's gonna be important. We're gonna set it to extreme, because that's the modification. And it's slightly better. We get slightly different colored lighting. If the shader had more time to develop, the settings menu would absolutely get better. At least I think so. Given that it removed your ability to adjust something about the torch lighting, I'm not sure. The water visibility in the modified version is a lot better. And more importantly, go back and set it to midnight. Yeah, that's the big difference, yep. But, like, when you finally make this shader look the way it's supposed to, look the way well, say it's supposed to, look the way you want in order to make it look good, it looks exceptionally well. And yeah, oh, if you set it, it looks really good. But, like, this shader already looked good by default. It just had some very glaring issues. I didn't say it looked bad. We can now talk about the showpiece that Chocapic has. You saw Bliss, but this is still my favorite end of all time. An undeniable classic, an unseen light source, an incredible amount of fog. Which, hold on. Oh wow. Yeah, it works. This is genuinely my favorite end of all time. And it really is the shader that I'll always look back on. This is going to be the shader I use when I go back to 1.16 or 1.17. This is the shader that I will consistently scream out the name of when it comes to the good shaders. I love this shader. It legit looks amazing. The settings menu is antiquated, but this has been whatever it was. I hope this provided you some sort of help, some sort of like understanding of whatever the hell this was. I hope I at least entertained you for this time, as I got very angry about certain shaders. I didn't want to go the overly edited and formatted route when it came to this. I just wanted to throw some shade and walk away. So I'm gonna do just that.